Hey Roger, thanks for sending this video over. My name's Spencer Piggott. I'll be doing the review for you today. Um, nice job for sure. Definitely pretty precise with your car placement. Looks like challenging the car. A few things we'll talk about mainly is just kind of thinking about entry speed and also kind of where you're picking up the throttle and a little bit of throttle technique. And then a couple places where I think you might want to just experiment with a couple different lines and kind of where you're placing the car. So we will go ahead and get started and watch the lap here and go through it. All right, so for turns 1 and 2 here, honestly, I think it looks quite good, like you just saw. I mean, nice and precise with the apex. You might be able to get away with braking a little bit deeper, but I don't think there's a huge amount of the track. You do a nice job kind of rolling on the throttle just as you're getting down to the apex. You might be able to get away with using a bit more curb through this section, just to kind of get a little bit more track width and more road to use. But again, if you've experimented with that and it upsets the car at all, then you're probably doing the right thing. All right, so now here in turn 3, you can hear that as you enter the corner, you kind of snap off the throttle and then get back on again before the apex, right? So snap off around here, and then you're back to, sounds like pretty much full throttle. What is that? 2-3 car lengths before the apex. So I'd rather see you, instead of kind of jumping off and back on the throttle, just kind of roll off of it a little bit, kind of be trying to be a little bit smoother with the throttle, because what you're doing at the moment is when you snap off the throttle, you're really, transferring the weight to the front quickly. And this isn't a super fast corner, so it probably doesn't induce any kind of oversteer. But if you're getting up to, faster corner and you still have that technique of kind of snapping on and off the throttle, then you're really kind of throwing the weight of the car around. And that could cause some instability. So I think it's a good habit to get into, these faster kind of flowing corners where you're just trying to keep the minimum speed up. Just kind of think about treating the throttle more as like a dimmer switch where you just kind of roll off and roll back on rather than an on-off switch. And obviously, like I said, that's going to help calm down the platform. And really make the car feel better, because the weight's not going to be, being thrown around forward and backwards as you're trying to turn. And also, when you don't dump out of the throttle, you roll off the throttle, you're not going to decelerate as quickly, right? So you're going to be able to carry a little bit more speed through the corner. Car should feel better. And in general, I think there's more speed available through this corner because it doesn't look like, you're really running out of the road on the right on the exit. So definitely, I think a good first step would just to be kind of trying to roll off, roll back on. And then, you might find that, oh, it actually feels better, feels more secure, feels more stable. And then that lift can become less and less. And I don't know if it's possible to take this corner flat out or not, but I think we could get away with a much smaller lift and just kind of being aware of the fact that, when you snap on and off, again, you're really kind of throwing the weight around and it's going to unsettle the car and just not feel quite as stable. You can see that you're kind of just brushing up against this curb. I've driven at this track a few times. I know that the green and white curb is pretty usable. I don't know about the gray outside of that. So something to keep in mind. You do have a little bit more room to push and experiment and carry a bit more speed until you find that, you're running a little bit too far over the curb and it's kind of a little too bumpy, or you end up realizing that the curb is actually pretty usable and pretty smooth. And then you find an extra 6 or 7 feet worth of track width to carry more speed. Okay, so through this section, obviously, the main idea is to set yourself up for that long right in a good position to get back to throttle and getting good exit because it's a pretty long run down to that next corner where you have to brake. So to me, this left here is really just about knocking off as little amount of speed as possible. You know that you're gonna have to brake again for the right, so really just be gentle with the brake. Don't overslow it. To me, it looks like maybe we braked a little too hard because you go back to a lot of throttle in between the apex of the left and the brake zone for the right hander. So again, just try and float a lot of speed in through here. Don't really worry so much about picking up the throttle at like right at the apex. If you're able to just kind of float speed in, keep that minimum speed up, even if your throttle pickup point becomes a little bit after this first apex for the left-hander, that's really not a big issue because there's no long exit after this corner, right? You're basically braking just after this. So again, just think of this as an entry speed corner. Obviously, you don't want to carry so much speed in that you end up kind of offline for the right, but just think about floating speed on the way in here, still being disciplined on the car placement, but not really so worried about getting back to throttle right at the apex. You do a good job getting to throttle at the apex. Again, as early as you can get to throttle here, open the hands, try not to scrub speed on the exit. Have that little lift there in the middle again. Sounds maybe kind of like a on-off. Again, I think just same kind of technique we talked about earlier, just kind of a roll off, roll on. Maybe you just need to put a little bit of weight on the front to help the car turn. But again, the smooth roll on, roll off should just help you maintain a little bit higher speed. Okay, so again, really nice car placement, nice line. The only thing I have to say here is, again, it sounds like you're getting back to throttle quite easily and quite far before the apex. So you're starting to feed the throttle in here, which, is not too bad. It does seem just a little bit early in my mind. So that's usually a sign of just overslowing the entry. So you could try a couple things. You could try just simply braking a bit deeper or braking a little bit lighter to try and just not knock as much speed off. Because a lot of times, especially if you get into driving bigger and faster cars, if you get back to throttle so early, then you're really going to pick up the weight off the front and it's going to induce a lot of understeer. So doesn't seem to be really doing that so much for you here, but it does, it usually is a sign that there's a bit more speed we can carry on the way in. So just keep that in mind and keep pushing the entry speed. Because again, it looks very calm and nowhere near kind of using up all the curbing or anything on the exit. All right, so one thing I noticed on the way into this left is that, you're still working your way back across the track to the right-hand side, right? So, if we stop the video here, you can see that, what do I want to do? Right now, your nose is still kind of pointed to the right. And I'd like to see you kind of braking in a straight line, a little bit more kind of parallel to the outside of the road, so that when you get to the corner, you don't have as much turning to do because you're still kind of pointed out to the right when you get to the corner and you turn in. You have to go a little bit further to bring the nose all the way back around and get into the corner. So I'll say that it looks to me that if we go back, this right hand is quite easy flat out, right? Looks very calm and secure. I don't know if you really need to use all the road on exit in order to keep it full throttle through there. You might be able to track out, a car width to the right still. And, there's a ton of straight left for you to get all the way back to the right-hand side of the track. So make sure you're kind of being a little bit more aggressive and just kind of thinking about the attitude of the car in the brake zone for that next corner, because if you're still pointed off to the right, again, it just means you have a tighter corner to navigate when you get down there. All right, so through the left-hander now, you do a very kind of definitive and like aggressive late apex. And usually you're way out here, super late, turn in, getting down here. So usually when you do a late apex like that, it's in order to, because you don't want to track out all the way on the exit, right? You have to sacrifice the exit. So you want to get all that rotation done nice and late and get a late apex so that you're straighter on the exit and you don't have to track out as much, right? But in this situation, you have a super late, but you still track out all the way almost, right? So you're not really gaining anything by doing that, later apex. In fact, you're kind of having to overslow the entry in order to make that tight turn at the end on the way in order to get so much rotation done by the time you get down to the apex. So I would suggest more of a traditional line here. Just kind of start, you'll be able to carry a bit more speed in, bend in earlier, maybe around here, kind of in the middle of the corner, back out all the way, because you still have a lot of room before you get to that next right-hand corner to get all the way back to the left-hand side of the track. So right now I just feel like you're giving up on the entry and not really gaining anything with car placement or exit speed on the way out. So yeah, I think you'll be able to gain a few tenths on the way in and not lose anything on the exit. So give that a try. This right-hander obviously again leads onto a pretty decent straight. So it does sound like we're overslowing the entry a little bit. So again, I just suggest a nice light brake pressure here. You're not really trying to slow down the car a whole lot because you're not coming from a big straight. It's not a super tight corner. So just try and be a little bit more aware of rolling a bit more speed in. And again, you can even use a little bit more road here. You kind of want to think about not trying to scrub speed, not having too much input in on the way out, because you just want to build that speed up as fast as you can. Last corner, pretty straightforward. I think you do a good job. Might be a hint of kind of early throttle application, maybe overslowing a touch, but you're starting to kind of pick up the throttle about here. And again, just think about as you're going back to throttle, you're picking up weight off the front. It's not going to help the front tires, right? It's not going to give them more grip. It's going to take grip away. So if you do find yourself kind of ever understeering in a situation like this, then just kind of think, where am I picking up the throttle? Am I picking up the throttle while I still have a ton of steering input in? Because that's going to be something that contributes to understeer. So, you might be able to, again, just brake a little bit deeper, kind of just shift everything a little bit further into the corner. So as you're getting off the brake, you're kind of already starting to turn in. By the time you get back to throttle, you're just kind of at the apex. So, and that's the lap. So hopefully all that makes sense. Feel free to shoot me a message if you have any questions, and I look forward to another one.